All right, zoning board, you are live. You're recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome everyone to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for May 13th, 2025. We have scheduled public hearings, but first I'll read, we have a canceled public hearing this evening, and that is 16 South Forest Street LLC at 16 South Forest Street in Montauk at Suffolk Tax Map number 300-28-8-14. That hearing is canceled. Our first hearing this evening is Bradley Crutch and Christian Reitnauer at 3 Shorewood Drive, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-91-3-23. The size and location is 40,010 square feet at 3 Shorewood Drive, Lot 16, map of Shorewood, filed October 3rd, 1973 as map number 6018 in East Hampton. The description is to allow pool equipment to remain 18.9 feet from the rear southern lot line where 30 feet is required. One variance of 11.1 is needed. Is needed from 255-1110 of the Town of East Hampton Code to allow the pool equipment to remain 18.9 feet from the rear yard lot line where 30 feet is the minimum required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. This is in my area, so I did the report. The first photo, if you see, is a photo as a posting, so it was properly posted. This is the driveway looking into the residence. Next. This is looking into the backyard. You can see the shed in question back there in the distance. Next. Just turning slightly to the right, you'll see the neighboring house. It's pretty well screened. Next. Looking again towards the shed, you'll see the pool to the left. The pool equipment is screened behind those shrubs, and you'll see it's pretty heavily wooded beyond that. Next. And just another clearer picture of the shed. Is that it? All right, just scanning over to see the pool and the house. Again, more to see the woods and the beyond that. So that's it. Do we have the applicant this evening? Come on up. How are you? Will you address yourself?
My name is Brad Crutch, owner of the property.
Okay. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
As you said, the pool equipment is already there. We weren't, unfortunately, I know ignorance is not an excuse, but we were not aware that it was 30 feet. We thought it was 15 after speaking with the pool folks, and unfortunately, there was a misunderstanding. As you noted, there's no actual direct build or anything behind the pool equipment. And so we asked what our options were, and a variance was an option. We're hoping to get that variance, which we applied for, and hopefully we'll get some grace here today. In addition, just proactively bringing up, I was made aware in this process that our vegetation is not at the adequate amount. We didn't actually know that when we purchased the property. And we were informed that. I've already spoken with Mark Abramson as far as next steps. We're prepared to do that. I met with the person who did the original survey, not the original one, the one we did for this. If you saw that, he actually didn't put the right square footage for what we're allowed on there either. So we weren't even aware we were above the right amount. So we're putting a mitigation plan in place. We're not there yet, but certainly willing to commit to do whatever we need to do to get into the guidelines.
How much over are you?
I think we're about 4,000 square feet, 4,600 square
And
feet.
you're going to bring it into compliance?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that'll be a condition of.
What's that on the survey, though?
Well, bring it
You
into
said it's not
compliance
correct
with.
on the survey?
So the survey says we have about 19,000 and change, but it's only 15,001 is
So
what
you're going to bring it into water recharge overlay district clearing limits?
We are in the water, we are
So
in
you're
that.
going to bring the clearing up to
Into conformity.
into conformity with the
Correct.
water recharge overlay district requirements?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, apologies, we weren't aware that that was the case.
Okay. The survey you're looking at, I'm looking at the one that says received May 3rd, 2024. That's the
Yeah,
latest,
so
right?
it's. I'm pretty sure I brought a copy with
Looks
me.
like it is.
That's what
but
I was-
just,
yeah.
This one,
What is that one you have?
June,
June 27th, 2023.
yeah. What did you say for May?
Yeah,
That's the most
survey.
recent, I think.
Yeah.
That's the only one I think in the file.
Data received
We'll have that.
May
We're all
3rd.
working from one that's dated received
Okay,
May
we all
3rd. We
have
want to make sure we're all on the same page here.
the one that I am looking at, and I apologize because I don't see the same. It should look exactly like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you
Except
look at
not
the
that red
bottom.
line.
Bottom right.
If you look at the bottom right, it should say June 27th, 2023.
Correct.
The red
That's
triangle,
correct.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
we're looking at.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions? Any other questions?
That was my one question.
So the mitigation of bringing it back into compliance will be a plan that you'll present as a condition of approval, and it'll be approved by the planning department in terms of its location and status, right? You understand that?
I do.
Okay.
And can I ask you to clarify that, just procedurally, no disagreement or anything? Does that mean that I would come back, present at another meeting, or are you just saying that it would be?
It would be a condition of approval,
Okay.
if approved.
Yeah, you won't have to come back. The planning department would sign off on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I have no.
I have
All
none.
right,
Yeah.
Morgan, come on up. Oh, thank you. We'll turn it over. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
How you doing, Morgan?
Hi, good evening, Board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department.
Morgan, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So it's straightforward dimensional variance request. I do want to add a little bit of historical context to the property. This property was in front of the zoning board back in 1990, and they were granted a 10.7-foot variance to allow the swimming pool and patio to remain 19.3 feet from the property line. So it was an existing variance that was granted back in 1990. I also want to clarify that the recommended condition of approval is for the revegetation plan to be done through the Natural Resources Department. I believe the homeowner has already started those conversations with Mark, so I think for contiguity purposes, that would just make more sense. There's no NRSP aspect to this application, and that would be required prior to the issuance of a CO on the property.
Morgan, yeah,
Go ahead.
when the variance was granted for the pool, back at the date you said, was there a call? I think there wasn't, but was there a call out for the equipment as well to receive a variance, or that it wasn't noted at that time
I
where?
believe the pool
was going?
equipment was in a conforming location at that time.
Okay. And it's been moved at some point. I know, I'm just double checking.
That's what it appears, yes.
Okay. And then can you clarify for us what the, because the survey on clearing wasn't quite matching up with what Mr. Crutch was saying. So what is the existing, is this correct? The lot coverage, existing lot coverage of, I'm sorry, not coverage, clearing, excuse me.
Yes, so the depicted clearing limits are accurate to the property. It's the permitted total clearing that is, the calculation used there was incorrect.
Right, so can you just, for the record, so I have it, what is the appropriate allowable limits of clearing?
Yes, under water recharge overlay district regulations, the maximum clearing allowed is 15,001 square feet
15,000 what?
and one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have no questions.
Thank you, Morgan. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address this application? No, Matt, is there anybody on the phone?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll make a motion. in the application of Bradley Crutch and Christian Reitnauer at 3 Sherwood Drive, East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-91-3-23, is to close the public hearing in the record.
Second.
Concur.
Concur?
Concur.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin McDermott at 70 Shore Road and 3 Merrill's Road, Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-84-17 and 18. The size and location is 28,353 square feet at 70 Shore Road and 3 Merrill's Road, Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-84-3-17 and 18. The description is to reconfigure the lot lines of 2 undersized parcels by transforming 4,889 square feet of lot area from Lot 1, which is Suffolk tax map number 300-84-3-17, to Lot 2, Suffolk tax map number 300-84-3-18. This reconfiguration will result in both parcels remaining nonconforming to lot area requirements, with Lot 1 becoming more nonconforming and Lot 2 becoming less nonconforming. The relief sought is one variance of 27,377 square feet is required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow Lot 1 to have a lot area of 12,623 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, Zone X flood zone, and it's secret class 2. And Member Mearing has a concern of a notice concern. You want
Yeah,
to speak
before
to
we,
that?
yeah, so when we get to the field report, if we open the hearing, so there are two, obviously there are 2 lots. There's a lot that is called 70 Shore Road. And there was a placard with no posting on it in front. That's an undeveloped property, so there's no drive or anything, but on that side. As I got closer, there was a folded up notice sheet that was down in the brush, in the grass. And then on the Merrill side, for the property that is receiving the extra square footage, there was no posting. So I know there's one variance that relates to the Shore Road, but both are noticed. So I guess my question was, should there not have been postings on both sides? And the one posting there was not properly posted at the time, at least when I went to see it.
Lori, you want to come up and address that?
Thank you.
I have photos of the posting, and we did check to make sure they were still there. So I'm not sure when they were
Okay.
removed, but they were definitely there. One of them actually had folded over on itself, and we went out and put it back on straight. But it must have fallen down within the last day or so.
Like that Friday rain.
So you had
Bad
both
rain.
properties posted, Lori? You had both properties posted.
And Merrill as well?
Three ones on the fence.
Yeah, I was there today.
And the
9.
affidavit is in
Yeah.
order.
All right, I think we can continue.
Affidavit for the record,
Yeah, okay.
stating that they were
Yeah.
posted, signed by Deborah Ray.
She went out and checked for you. Yes, you may have.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
add this to the affidavit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, for the photos.
You want to continue with the report?
Yes, of course. Yeah, wait till it comes up. So again, I'm gonna, while we're waiting for the photos to come up, Lot 1 is the undeveloped parcel that fronts on, quote, Shore Road. Although, actually, when you're in Lazy Point, they're actually both signed as Merrill Road, so. Let's wait for that.
It's up on the other screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you, is it possible so I could see? Or I can come over.
I think it's,
Okay.
you might need to tell yourself, so.
Brian, I'm not seeing that you've shared your screen.
Was sure, I just unshared it to see if there was something else I could do. Maybe I'll put this on the other screen.
Because I could go to the podium and look at that screen if you
We
want.
can't see anything.
Oh, you can't see it, right, that's true. Yeah. Because it's all about me.
Can you see it now?
Here it is, yeah.
We can.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so this is the posting or the placard that I was talking about. This is on the Shore Road undeveloped property that is giving square footage. And again, you can see on the ground there, it was nicely folded up, but maybe it had blown away and someone folded it back and put it there. Okay, next slide. I think these are going to be a little out of order because I had some, so now, well, they're all out of order, I think. But I'm now on the other property on Merrill's Road. I've already gone on the driveway and I'm looking towards the water. So I'm looking east. I'm looking to the shore. What I'm looking at there is you can look from the Merrill property onto the bulk of the undeveloped property. I just wanted to get that view. Next slide. This is, sorry, this is my fault. These are all out of order. So this was my last slide. This is, I've got the house on Merrill to my right, and where the gravel is part of the area that is being transferred. And from that point, I'm looking towards the neighbor also on the Shore Road side. So it's not clear where the transferred property will end, but somewhere in the middle of that photo, I think is the boundary. Next slide. Okay, so now reversing. This is, I just had wanted to see it further from, this is on the Shore Road side, just to get a little sense of the neighborhood. I'm looking, that was the placard we saw, and that's the front of the undeveloped property. And basically right off the screen to the right would be the corner where you wrap around onto Merrill's Road. Next slide. Okay, now I'm on the Merrill's Road side. Again, that's the boundary of the undeveloped property. This part of the property is really not in play on this. Next slide, and that's Merrill's Road. This is the corner I was talking about that led to that. As many of you know, this part of Lazy Point, there is manufactured home little cluster community right across from the Merrill's Road property. Okay, so the house right now is really not in jurisdiction of our decision or anything, but I did take a picture just to orient relative to survey. So this is the existing house. There's a deck, and on the ground, you'll see that little walkway, the wooden walkway. And right there is really where the property line is. And I guess the issue of why the applicant is transferring property is, I think it was in front of the board at some point for a variance and it wasn't granted. So that, I believe, that little slate walkway, and I think also the deck doesn't meet setbacks, but I can't remember, that's pre-existing. So that's the only reason I put it in. Again, the house is not in jurisdiction. Next slide. I can't, this is really out of order. This was the entry to the Merrill's Road property. There's just a dirt driveway. As you're going up to the house, everything you see to the left of the house, that is really part of the land that's being transferred, because the property line, current property line, is very tight to the house. Next slide. That might be it. Okay, yeah, and then I just had that again, that wooden walkway is I think the thing that needed the setback variance. That table there I just showed, because once you get really to around that table and off the screen to the left is where the section of the other property is coming from. Next slide.
That's the last.
That was it. Okay. Sorry for the out of order. I was having a lot of technical difficulties today. Thank you.
So, yes, there was a prior.
Lori,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Lori, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Yes,
truth?
I do. Thank you. So there was a prior application regarding the house, and there was an application, the deck was part of that application, but it was misnoticed, so the board could not approve the setback for the deck. So part of the reason for moving the lot line is A, to make the lots more equal in size, but B, to create a proper setback for that deck rather than chopping it off. And the application is to transfer 4,889 square feet from Lot 1 to Lot 2 in order to make both lots more equal in size. Lot 2 is currently a very narrow lot, which is developed with a house and accessory structures. Lot 1 is an L-shaped vacant lot, which requires the lot area variance in order to decrease its area from 19,512 square feet to 14,623 square feet. This is not a substantial variance. A vast majority of the lots in this neighborhood are substantially smaller than the 40,000 square feet required by zoning. In fact, it appears that approximately 17 of the 19 lots in the immediate neighborhood are undersized for the A residential zone. This situation is largely due to the fact that the area was once zoned C residential, requiring only a quarter acre of lot area. At some point, it was upzoned, although it doesn't seem to make any sense because it didn't capture anyone at all. It should be noted that there is a 2-acre mobile home park across the street containing 7 mobile homes and accessory structures. The subject parcels are also very near to the trustee-owned land developed by multiple homes on one tax lot. So that would be Lazy Point Road and Shore Road with all those trustee homes, very near to that. Approval of this application will not result in any additional residential density. That's really important. Thus, this application will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. The application does not require an NRSP for wetlands, beach vegetation, or dune formations, as there are none of these features on or near the subject properties. Therefore, there will be no negative environmental impact. There will not be a negative environmental impact. Approval of the variance will enable the gross floor area of the house on Lot 2 to be increased by up to 342 square feet and will also provide setback relief for the existing deck, shower, and walkway on the north side of the residence. Finally, and importantly, there's already a covenant recorded at the county pursuant to the prior zoning board decision, requiring the septic system to be upgraded should the house on Lot 2 apply to build or get any larger.
And that covenant would carry.
That runs with the land, regardless of who owns it. Any application to enlarge this house would require an upgraded sanitary system.
Anybody have any questions on this application?
Just on the survey, it shows a proposed house on Lot 1. You were talking about not changing the density. I'm looking at it's not in front of us tonight, I understand, but the survey does indicate that there's
A proposed house?
Yeah. Survey.
Yeah, there's like a
on the
building
survey,
envelope.
there's on Lot 1.
2024.
See a proposed house there, and we're asking the question, is that something that's going to be in front of us?
No, there's no reason. There is no proposed house that I'm aware of, and it's not on my survey, so I'm not sure what survey's showing a proposed house.
What's the date of the one you're looking at?
Yeah, well, we're looking at the same, all right, what survey are we looking at? Last April 15th, 2024?
I have the date of the survey is March 16th, 2024.
You have the one before it.
I have last revised April 15th, 2024.
That's interesting. No, that's just a health
Building
department typical lot layout.
So is it
It's not
received,
proposed.
24th?
It's not part of this application. It wouldn't come before you unless it didn't meet setbacks for any reason, but there's no natural resource situation with either of these lots. So no, that is not actually proposed.
So
That is
this is-
just a typical health department layout.
Okay, so this survey was prepared, and this was put on here either
Well,
without your
because we
knowledge,
have to
or-
go to the health department to change the configuration of the lots, and they ask for the typical lot layout to be shown.
Right.
I think the planning board needs to. May I ask one more question? I heard what you said, that there's a covenant that says that if the house on Lot 2 is expanded, an upgrade would be needed. But I was reading the comments that the planning board sent to us, and I just wonder if you could respond because, they were emphatic in their comments to us to look at requesting or looking for mitigation around the septic now. So I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but could you just address that? Because it was fairly strong language in the planning department comments
Yes.
to us.
So clearly, there's no additional development proposed here at all. There's no additional density. There's no more people using the house until we come in to enlarge it. So basically, the application is to move lines on paper. So it doesn't really trigger, it's none of the triggers in the town code for a sanitary system upgrade, and you already have a covenant guaranteeing that that will happen when they, and I believe they will be enlarging this house, when they enlarge this house. That's part of the reason for moving the lot line.
Okay, but moving it also allows for more to be put on lot 2, if and when they decide.
Right, but we can only add up to 342 square feet, but it may be an addition, they've got 2 kids and it's not a very big house, so they might be adding a bedroom somewhere, and then they have to upgrade the
Just to
sanitary.
clarify, if you did add 342 square feet, it would not require an NRSP.
There's no NRSP or, no, there's no natural features anywhere near either of these parcels.
Okay.
That we know by lot inspection.
I know I get confused in that area, like where that it needs, there was another application where I thought it needed an NRSP and then I learned it doesn't, right? Yeah.
No.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, I didn't get Lori's last name or her address on it. Just call her Lori.
It's Lori Wiltshire and offices at 231 Fancy Go Road in East Hampton.
Thank you. Brian.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Brian. Announce yourself.
Brian Frank from the planning department.
There you go. Look at that, right? You swear firm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
I don't have a lot to add. I think this is a pretty straightforward lot line modification. There are 2 single and separate lots now. The transfer of area doesn't result in an increase of the number of lots. So as Lori had mentioned, there's no increase in density. In subdivision speak, 70 Shore Road is lot 1 and 3 Merrill's Road is lot 2. They're transferring a little less than 5,000 square feet from lot 1 to lot 2, which does decrease the conformity of lot 1 to lot area. It increases the conformity of lot 2 and also eliminates the side yard and pyramid variance nonconformities that exist on lot 2. And when a sanitary system is installed on this property in the future, whenever that is, it provides more options for where a sanitary system could go. It's obviously, if the lot 2 remains in its existing configuration, you'd have to put the sanitary system in the front yard or to the west of the building. And with the increased area, there are more options for either an addition, appurtenances, or a sanitary system. There was a ZBA determination in 2021 that did require that filing of the covenant to upgrade the sanitary system if there's any increase in the GFA. And one of the variances was denied because it was perceived as being misnoticed, not because it failed to meet the variance standards. You've already referenced the comments of the planning board. The planning board is generally supportive of the lot line configuration and is encouraging the sanitary upgrade to occur as soon as possible. I don't have any other comments to offer the board. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions for Brian? No.
No, we have no questions.
Thank you, Brian. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application? Matt, anybody on the phones?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes, of course. In the matter of Kevin McDermott, 70 Shore Road and 3 Merrill's Road, I'm against it. Suffolk County Tax Map 300-84-17 and 18. I make a motion to close the public hearing and the record.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Good night, Lori.
Our next hearing is Jose Santiago and Yanilsa Munoz at 232 3 Mile Harbor Road in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-143-1-1. The size and location is 38,052 square feet at 232 3 Mile Harbor Road, East Hampton. The description is to construct a new basement and foundation under an existing residence and to allow an existing fence, stone wall with gate, driveway improvement, and shed to remain on a parcel of land containing and within setbacks of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 95 feet, 82.75 feet, and 44 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow the existing fence to remain 5 feet, stone wall 27.25 feet, and shed 56 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, we have an affidavit of service and posting from Jane Stewart.
Thank you. And this was, again, in my territory, so the posting was on the gate. It's properly posted. Next, this is the driveway into the residence. Next. I'll come back to it later, but you'll see the stone wall that was part of that, but I'll come back to that. This is a photo of the house that's going to be raised. Next. This is a rear photo of the house being raised. Next. This is the photo of the shed. They're looking to legalize. Next. Photo of the gate and the stone wall. Next photo will show the stone wall. No, it's out of order. I think this is a photo showing the edge of the drop-off going into the Silk Heights wetlands. Next. Oh, and that was it. Do we have the agent or applicant this evening? Can you announce your name and address?
Jane Stewart, 232 3 Mile Harbor Road, East Hampton, New York.
And you're not an attorney?
No, I am not.
Okay, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
First of all, I need to clear one thing up. We are not raising the house.
No.
We're digging under it,
Okay.
okay? And the plan is to have a, what do you call it?
Easement?
You were just bringing something to lift the dirt out of underneath it and put it straight into a dump truck, right? Okay, so that's what we're planning to do. We're planning to take it directly out from under the house and put it with a conveyor belt and put it into a dump truck. So at no point will it be outside the basement and on the ground.
So there's no foundation on it now. So
No.
when you remove the dirt, what's holding up the house? Or are you
Oh,
going to do it, or are you
there
doing
are-
it in sections?
There are lolly columns that were sunk when the.
I'm not worried about after you, other than the foundations, while you're digging, what's
I
holding
think
up?
there is, how much of a foundation is there? It goes down how far? Oh, there is a wall
that, but-
going down 9 feet?
Columns.
The basement is, that's a high like 7, maybe 6 feet high, the basement, but the.
Oh, so there's something holding up the house now besides,
Yeah.
and there's a wall that, isn't there also a wall going across?
Yeah, like column, yeah.
And the columns. So there is part of a foundation there.
Oh, I understand, but you're still deepening the foundation. And if you're digging out this, the house is going to need to be shored up while you're digging.
Right.
Because then you put it back down on the foundation, new
If
foundation.
you have a 5-foot wall or something like that, and you're going to 8 feet, the wall's going to be removed.
Could this be?
There'll be nothing holding it up.
It is 5 feet down now. There is a foundation down to, now there's an 8-foot foundation. I know there's columns, but what's on the sides? No, Jose. So the columns go down this whole,
Yeah, the border cement.
oh, the border is,
The block, yeah.
oh, there's cinder block there now? What there, can you explain?
At the bottom, down. And
The hand-drawn plan shows the existing 8-foot columns.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we see that, but
This one here. Yeah.
I see that hand-drawn sketch.
Right, yeah, we're all looking at that.
no, it's,
still a moment when it's all going to be free.
Mm-hmm.
I made the columns, the German columns
Yeah.
down. I make and I support the.
I see, I think I,
At the sides, when you dig
And
this,
the
you could get it.
And almost the whole.
Builder has got it.
Support down, the two little.
No. On the, Jose, when you dig out the dirt, where the house is right now, where the house.
I think he might have
Have them
done
sworn
some
in
digging
and
out inside to get the columns in, but that doesn't mean it's still
going to be unsupported.
it's still going to be unsupported.
I need bring back the.
There is no drawing for the perimeter. No walls.
Support, right?
Oh, okay. So so what I gather is he's going, I don't know that much about construction, but,
So you're relying on 3 columns while you dig this foundation.
no, what he's saying is he's going to just dig part of the walls out and bring the cement truck in and pour the,
Then you're going to do it in sections?
yeah,
In sections, so it's not going to be done all at once?
no.
Oh, no. That I understand.
So when you make an application, you're going to have a drawing that's going to indicate how that's going to be accomplished. Obviously, there'll be.
I think we're going to
rebar.
make that a condition of the building permit if we approve this, is that there needs to be more detail for the building inspector
Okay.
to approve this, and there's not enough information for even us, like, I think I'm understanding it now, but I think there has to be some more clarification as you file for your building permit, and we're going to make that, if we approve this, we're going to make it a condition of that, of the,
I understand. I have to live in the house, so I don't want it to
Right.
fall down.
You don't want to live in the basement.
But the building department's going to require some structural drawings, something that shows that this is going to be held, especially if you're doing it in pieces. They'll want to know what's tying one to another. That's not for us, that'll be the building department, but as the chair was saying, that'd be, if we move forward with this, that'd be a condition of any agreement we might come to.
all right. You can proceed.
Well, one other thing I wanted to clarify, when the shower was built, a dry well was installed so that the water from you couldn't see it because there's a lot of stuff in the shower, but there's a big drain in the middle and it goes directly into a dry well. A large dry well, actually. Do the downspouts on the side of the house, do they go into the dry well as well?
But the gutter,
The gutters, yeah.
gutter going to the water, yeah.
It goes into the dry well or not?
There would be a recommended project conditions on the technical analysis memo that states that would be a requirement.
To have the downspouts go into a dry well as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. You're in an NRSP, especially you're in an NRSP jurisdiction, so that's pretty critical.
By the way, the reason for all of this is heating. It's very, very difficult to heat this house because there's no basement and therefore no
Hold the mic
insulation.
closer to you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so
I
much.
thought I had a very loud voice. Because there's no basement, there's no insulation under the house. And it really costs us quite a lot of money to heat it every year.
Will there be, you're doing an 8-foot basement, so will it be finished and have living area down
No,
there?
no.
No, unfinished
Storage.
storage.
The stone wall, where is that stone wall?
People that would say something like storage only, unfinished basement.
Floor, concrete floor, but.
Yeah. Board members, any questions?
Well, and
Well, the
just that
stone
you,
wall is very,
yeah.
is a huge
What's the height,
variance.
what's the height of
What is
this?
the height of that stone wall?
I think what
purpose?
I think it's 4 feet because we had to take, when the code enforcer
About 4
came
feet.
to inspect the property she made us take part of it down because it was like 6 inches too high
Okay.
and also cut the gate down. So I think it's within bounds.
And also the fence is a very large variance, is there, and according to the TAM, can be put in a more conforming location? Have you given any
I'm
thought
sorry,
to that?
it's hard for me to hear you.
The fence at the rear of the parcel could be located in a more conforming location? You're asking for a very large variance?
Well, the reason it's there is because there's a drop off and we didn't want anybody to fall down. I mean, we're 30 feet above the wetlands. The wetlands are quite a way below us.
It's a very
And
sensitive wetland you're talking about.
so we put it right at the edge so nobody could fall down.
I mean, the town of East Hampton, according to the TAM's notes, that it actually owns several of the underdeveloped parcels to the north in preservation to protect the integrity of these wetlands. So just for the record, these are very large variances you're asking for.
We would love to sell the back property to the town. It's useless to us.
So the parcel is also slightly overcleared.
Really? Because at least half of it is totally vegetated.
So we have, on the survey, it says the existing clearing is 15,901 square feet. Your allowable is 15,354. So you're slightly over cleared. So would you be willing to revegetate and along the wetlands now? So maybe a good idea is to move the fence forward and revegetate the required amount. What's your thought, board members, on that?
I think that's.
I'm just making a suggestion.
That would be
because
Half
better
of the
than what-
property,
We're cleared right now.
on the half of the property that the house is on, there's almost no clearing except the house itself and the driveway. Everything else is vegetated.
But your survey is saying you're over cleared by almost 600 square feet?
Right.
Yeah.
So the survey, the way our town code works, the survey area, including the wetlands, is 38,000 so on square feet. But the calculations for things like clearing and coverage, they're based on the portion of the lot excluding the wetlands,
Okay.
which is
Nothing has
21,000.
been clear, everything has been vegetated. Nothing has ever been cleared from there since we bought the property. We have added a lot of it because
Well,
Mr.
there's a-
Santiago is a landscaper.
Right, but there's a difference
Survey.
between landscaping and vegetated clearing and vegetation that is allowable. Right, landscaping doesn't mean that it's allowable vegetation to protect the wetlands. Right, so you have to be approved by the town, and the survey picked up on that they're identifying you as overcleared. Not from landscaping, from allowable vegetation. There's a difference,
Okay, well, it's easy enough for us to put in more vegetation.
right?
There's,
That's why I brought up the fence and
But
relocating
moving
it.
the fence is a huge job.
It could be in a more conforming location, though,
So you're saying move the fence in and vegetate behind it?
to protect the wetlands. Yes, this is a very, very significant wetland we're trying to protect.
I guess if that's a condition, that's a
You're
condition.
asking for a fence to remain 5 feet from a wetland where 100 feet is required.
Okay.
So that's a
But that,
very
all of that
significant.
existed before we ever bought
We
the house.
understand, but, we're just saying this sort of stuff runs with the land.
If we gave you 100 feet, we wouldn't have any property.
over 100 feet.
No.
Also bear in mind, when
Create
you're
a
talking about
buffer,
how much is
right?
cleared, you're talking about around your house, but that northern portion of the lot that you have some equipment and materials there, that's fully cleared, so that figures into the calculations here. So if you take a look at this lot, we're not talking about just what's immediately around your house. We're talking about the entire lot. So when they do the configuration, they're looking at that
They're
all.
going to want you to move the fence in. How many feet?
I'm sorry, you were asking a question.
Maybe we need.
Which that's the planning,
I'd like
what's
to hear
that
from the
planning?
planning department.
200 feet,
5
there's 600 feet. I would go maybe,
Well, at least bring it into the limits of clearing.
yeah, it would be the limits of clearing, 600 feet. So it would be, well, that would be 3 feet in, but I would say
We need more than that.
maybe 5 feet in.
5 feet in,
5 feet.
5 feet?
5 feet in? So they want you
to
to
be able to revegetate that.
It's a
5
water
feet
fence?
in, I forgot already. And plant what's approved behind it.
I think it's a wire fence, right?
And that would bring it into the preferred limits of clearing. And of course, again, it's to preserve the integrity of the wetlands. Now, there's also that storage container that is
That's being
according, is going to be removed, and for the record, it will be removed?
Yes.
Okay.
And did we resolve the stone wall in terms of what the purpose of
Yeah,
the
well, I
stone wall
didn't-
is?
Yeah, I asked that.
Purpose of the
Yeah.
stone wall is?
Yeah,
Oh,
why?
to prevent people who are, we've already had part of it knocked down by cars on 3 Mile Harbor Road, careening in towards the property. And so Mr. Santiago, when when he renovated the house, he was nervous about that. And so we're right at the bottom of McElnea Street, so people can very easily try to make the turn and miss. And he was very concerned that the house would get hit and then the other part of the property.
So it's used as a barrier?
Uh-huh. It's very effective. I can tell you from the truck that hit it.
Any further questions? Board
No
members?
planning.
No.
Thank you. We'll hear from the planning department. Tyler?
Do not careen.
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department.
So do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So the subject property is
Tyler,
situated on the
really
east side-
quickly, can you just raise up that microphone?
Sure.
Thank you.
sorry.
There you go.
So the subject property is situated on the east side of 3 Mile Harbor Road in East Hampton. The project before the ZBA is the request to lift the existing residence to install a full-size basement foundation in the same footprint and to legalize several structures which were constructed without proper permits in place. The subject property is within jurisdiction of significant standing water wetlands, both on and off the parcel to the east and to the south, which extend to the north as well. These wetlands were contiguous to the Soak Heights Dream wetlands prior to the construction of 3 Mile Harbor Road and development subsequently fragmenting the wetlands and surrounding habitat over the course of a number of years. The proposed project includes the installation of a full 8-foot deep poured foundation basement in place of the existing columns and to allow the existing fencing, wall, gate, and shed to remain within jurisdiction and within setbacks to wetlands. The 3 structures needing relief to remain on the parcel have appeared to be in place since at least the prior to the most recent CO being issued. However, no survey was associated with that CO, which was issued just for windows and doors to the existing residents. Similarly, the most recent, the more recently improved driveway from dirt to gravel was also completed prior to the issuance of the most recent CO, but should be included in the determination, if approved, to provide a cleaner record of the improvements made on the parcel parcel to avoid any future complications. Another accessory structure, which is a storage container located in the northwest corner of the parcel, which is located within front yard and side yard lot line setbacks, as well as minimum wetland setbacks, is proposed to be removed from the property. The subject property is encumbered with significant wetlands that place nearly any new structures within minimum setbacks. The existing shed, driveway, fencing, and wall are all located within minimum setbacks, and most are proposed in some of the more conforming locations available to the applicant. The fencing at the rear of the parcel could be located in a more conforming location. However, it is also located along the existing edge of clearing. The proposed foundation improvement will keep the same footprint as the existing residence. A test hole was completed, which puts groundwater at 10.7 feet below grade, meeting the board's standard 2-foot separation for the proposed basement. The applicants have not included any additional mitigation for the proposed work. The planning department included the standard leaders and gutters to dry walls for the residents and silt fencing for during construction, as well as having the storage container removed prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. And just to note that the clearing on the property is pre-existing non-conforming. It hasn't changed since the first CO on the property. At least not significantly. Just to note, where that clearing came from. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
I think I'm just confused about how the TAM addresses the scenic easement. Like in one breath, you're saying it can be considered a possible mitigation, but then also saying the scale of the work doesn't really.
Yeah, obviously it's a tool that the board can utilize, where the planning department just wasn't certain as to its value in this case because of the limited buffer that it protect, and also the scale of the work that's being done on the property.
So what we're suggesting to relocate the fence and then revegetate a certain area, that would be enough to
Certainly.
proper mitigation?
Yeah. Certainly, yeah. We didn't even suggest a revegetation. Again, because of the scale of the work being proposed in the limited space, but
in light of the huge variance for the fence, if it were moved, then you would have the ability to revegetate and bring it into the proper clearing limits.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and any reduction in clearing on the property would be beneficial to the wetlands because of how significant they are and how close the clearing is to those existing wetlands, or the existing clearing is to the wetlands.
Thank you, Tyler.
Especially in the northern portion of the parcel, which is used as a work area now.
Right.
The buffer there would have to have some value.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially for runoff concerns. There's minimal protection. And the southern part of the property, there's a lot of landscaping, which is cleared, in quotes, but does provide some runoff control. It does provide something.
Tyler, can I ask you a question about the survey? Well, two questions. Number one, so the red dotted line, was that a building envelope that was set in a subdivision where, it says 30-foot setback?
That's just the accessory structure setback.
Okay, but that 30 feet wasn't part of a subdivision that needed an easement on the front?
No, I don't think the property has.
Because sometimes when you see that kind of 30-foot.
Yeah, sometimes surveyors will put the construction envelopes on there for different structures. In this case, they only put it on there for the accessory structures.
Okay, that's why the house is outside of it. And then I don't know.
House got a ZBA variance a number of years ago, but it was so long ago. I think it was because it was in a higher zone and it wouldn't. It's conforming today, regardless.
And then maybe there's another survey, older one, but I am looking at this February 22nd, 2024. For some reason, I don't see the setbacks to the wetlands noted on the shed.
Yeah, we just measured them ourselves. We didn't feel like it was necessary to make them incomplete.
And also,
to add that.
or also for the stone wall, because there's stone walls.
There's actually two.
Yeah, there's two stone walls. So the variance that's required for the stone wall is 82.75. But I'm just trying to place which stone, they're not marked on
closest
here.
point probably to the southern wetlands is where the measurement was taken from.
Okay. And do we determine how tall the wall is? I'm sorry.
4 feet.
4 feet,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that seems accurate.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience would like to address this application? Matt, is there anybody on the phone?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. So you want to come up for a sec? You know what, no, you go to the mic. There you go. No, sorry.
I'm used to watching
Yeah.
court shows.
So you understand, you would agree to moving the fence and revegetating?
Yes, if that's what we have to do.
Just understand that when you say revegetate, it has to be plants that are approved by the town. It's a list that do it. You have to work with the planning department to do that. I just wanted to get that clear.
I do.
All right, thank you. So with that, Jose Santiago and Yanilsa Munoz at 232 3 Mile Harbor Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-143-1-1. I make a motion to close the hearing and the public record.
Second.
Concur.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Savina Della Mata at 41 Gardner's Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk, tax map number 300-174-4-7.
You're all set.
The size and location is 10,615 square feet at 41 Gardner's Drive, Beach Hampton, Section 1, Block 10, lots 34 through 38 in Amagansett. The description is for the removal of various appurtenances and construct a 338 square foot attached garage with 312 square feet of roof deck, 337 square feet of first story additions to the residence, an attached shed, sauna, and 790 square feet of patios. New fencing with driveway gate and an enlarged driveway on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands. A natural resources special permit is a relief sought pursuant to 255-440 and variances from 255-430, minimum wetland setbacks, and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. 1 and 2, an 83-foot variance is required to allow the addition of roof deck to be constructed 17 foot from wetlands. 3 and 4, a variance of 79.6 feet is required to allow the attached shed and sauna to be constructed 20.4 feet from wetlands. 5, an 80.3 foot variance is required to construct the closest of the additions 19.7 feet from wetlands. 6, an 88.2 feet variance is required to construct the closest of the stone patio 11.8 feet from the wetlands. And 7, a 90-foot variance is required to construct the fencing 10 feet from the wetlands, all where 100-foot setback is required. Zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. The council do a proper affidavit of service and posting.
Yes, we have an affidavit of service and posting signed by Joel Halsey.
Thank you. Member Mary.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this is, we're again find ourselves in the eastern section of Beach Hampton neighborhood where the dirt roads are. This is on Gardner's Drive. There are 2 front yards to this property, so I'll show both posting. Wait, so that was the first posting. Sorry, could you just go back for a second? That's the Gardner's side. You can see the proper posting, and then I'll come back to go through that tall gate to the right. Yeah, it's more, I think, but that we can talk about that again. And then this is just, again, we'd like to sort of show the neighborhood a little bit. This is Gardner's looking north towards, it would be 27 beyond. Okay, and then this is, I guess this would be Central Ave on the, where the other part of the front yard is. And there should, yeah, that's on the Central Ave side. That's the other posting right there. And there, well, we'll come back to this. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so now I've gone back through that gate that we talked about. That's the existing driveway. I'm looking at the house. I guess that's the front door. And then we'll get another shot of it, but to the left of the taller structure. Right now, those are sort of two detached accessory structures. And that's the area where the proposed garage, attached garage, and then on the rear of it would be the sauna and the storage. Next slide. Where am I? User, oh, okay. So now I've gone north of that driveway where I was. This is a closer look at those two accessory sheds. And you can see a whole line at the very left of the screen that are, I think they're arborvitae, and the property line would be somewhere in there. So you can see right now where the accessory structures are relative to that vegetation. Next slide. Okay, more of the same. That area that we're looking at now with that arborvitae, that on the survey, that's the north, sort of north west corner of the property where it's written arborvitae wetland. So was a wetland sort of in there that touched onto the property. Next slide. This is looking straight at it. That's sort of the corner of the vegetation. That's the arborvitae that is either right in the wetlands or just right on top of the wetlands that are marked on that part of the survey. Okay, so now I'm going the other way on the property. You can't see it, but just to the right of that front door, there's that sort of slate, there's brick patio. The camera is looking basically towards Central Avenue. So I'm going to move south on the front side of the house. You can see that brick patio. Next slide. Okay, so now I'm going in that same direction, south. I'm getting closer towards the southwest corner, sort of grassy, lot of ornamental type vegetation cleared. Next slide. Okay, so now I've gone, that area would be to my back. This is an important photo. This is the part that is marked on the survey as the area of the wetlands that were filled. It's a little hard to see it in the photo. If you look closely at it, you can see that grassy lawn-ish area inside the fence is the area that was filled. And what you can see when you're there is it just drops off, right? So the grade's been raised and filled. And then right on the other side of the fence is the more natural wetland and, the sort of brambly vegetation. So that would correspond to the southeast corner of the property. Next slide. And now I put that to my back and I'm starting to go on the back side of the house and I'm looking north again. This is all the lawn area. You can see there's a wooden like retaining wall. I guess the property changed grade, and rather than just the natural grade, they created I pre-existed, I believe, this owner. And then the brick patio you can see on the rear of the house to the left of the. And it's it's also all ornamentally screened on the other property line. Okay, this is a better look at the rear of the house. And again, the lawn area and the brick patio, some of which is going to be removed to change over to stone patio. Next slide. Just a better look, looking flush at that rear of the house and the existing brick patio. The survey shows the limits of it and then how it will be changed relative to the stone. And now we're getting back on the other side. This is on the rear. So you see the rear of those two detached sheds. I guess on that side of the attached garage would be where the storage and sauna structure would be attached to the garage. Is there one more? Next slide. Yeah, just a little closer look at the raised brick patio, the steps, the vegetation, sort of what the ornamentals, what's going on. And then now this is the northeast corner of the property. Again, back to the arborvitae, all cleared there. I don't know if the horse is considered a structure that needs a setback. Joking. Anyway, is there one more, Brian? That might be it. Yeah, so it's just more of this side of that. This is the north side of the property between the sheds, which would be converted to the attached structures and the northern property line. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy? How are you, Andy?
Good evening, Chairman Deline, members of the board. I'm glad somebody mentioned the horse. I thought I was losing it when I saw it in the photo.
I did. I went like, whoa.
I'm here tonight representing Silvina Del Mata, who is here with me tonight as well. She's the owner of 41 Gardeners Lane in Amagansett. Joel Halsey is also here. He's more intimately familiar with the application and technical aspects. I did we made a written submission, so I'm going to try and be brief, basically. I think the TAM is pretty accurate in its analysis of the property, but I can't agree with the characterization that this owner purchased this property with the knowledge of the extent and location of the wetlands available. Basically, that in the TAM, it sort of says that would disqualify this application from the board's consideration for approval. The sins of the father should perhaps be attributable to the son in certain instances. There's a long history of incremental changes to this property that were made by owners other than Silvina, who incidentally purchased this property in 2020, which is basically the height of the COVID pandemic, if we all remember. My office did not represent her on this purchase at that time, but I would think it would be a very challenging time to access town records and gain accurate and timely information on a property or to assess its viability for future improvements. That being said, it's rare that I see a 1979 certificate of occupancy being the only CO of record on a property. That predates town wetland regulations and many of our modern interpretations of zoning today. And frankly, I'm not familiar enough with surveying standards from 1979 to intelligently address what would or would not be shown. For instance, sand patios for a long time were not considered structures in the town code, all the way up to 2001, as I recall. The building inspector considered them removable structures. They weren't subject to tax, and you could run a lawnmower over them. There's a whole history there. That's just an area that will remain unexplored. However, any speculation on what legally could exist or pre-exist on this property is sort of a waste of effort. The proposed project details the after condition of the property that were not the prior conditions that predate Silvina's ownership. Our plan calls for the addition of a 338 square foot attached garage that is attached to a proposed sauna and storage shed. Actually, one of those sheds is in fact a sauna today. It might have been all the way back in time. However, we are seeking the enlargement of basically we're attaching this garage in the area where you see those two detached sheds, one of which had an addition put on at some point in the past. And we're also seeking the enlargement of the patio on the east side of the residence, essentially reconfiguring and slightly expanding the patio that legally existed to wrap it along the rear of the house, where it is more usable as well and a little bit larger. Basically, right now, the patio that legally existed didn't relate to the house. It was kind of a square away from the house. We wanted to kind of wrap the house so it becomes an entrance and living area there. All of that is within a tight envelope to the existing residence. The shed and the garage will comply with the side yard setbacks. I do think the TAM reads as if these are all separate structures. If you look at the building plans, they're all pretty much integrated into one rectangular box. And the numerosity of the variances that were read at the beginning of the application is attributable to treating them as separate structures. And I think realistically, you could build the garage but not build the sauna or the shed that's attached to it. But, they were all basically designed to kind of take the place and fill that area of the property. There was at least one shed illegally added to the property, the expansion by a prior owner. I would say even the CO configuration you see on the survey from 1979 is somewhat odd. We think constructing a larger attached garage will consolidate the use of the area as well as make it a little bit more compact and reasonable envelope adjacent to the residence. It just basically makes sense. There's also a very small addition proposed. You could see it in kind of one of those photos.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to
37
call it
square
out.
feet. It's just a weird little thing. I don't think that was of much concern in the TAM. We are proposing to upgrade the sanitary system to an AI system. This is mitigation that would not otherwise be triggered under the code, but it will dramatically improve the environmental conditions on the property and acts to mitigate the very small changes that we're asking for. Frankly, I don't see how this application would trigger this upgrade without a full redevelopment application on the property. We think this collects and mitigates, perhaps excessively, our proposed changes. We are also proposing to revegetate the wetland areas and restore the wetland in the southeast. I think I've seen it called southeast, southwest. It's actually in the southeast of the property, which had that fill introduced in the past. We'd be pleased to coordinate this work with the planning department so they can inspect and control the activities in the sensitive areas while they are occurring. I know there was some discussion about whether or not that could have been done before. I've always taken the approach that this should be done via natural resource special permit, so it was included as part of our application in front of the board tonight. We would also agree to all the mitigation measures suggested by in the TAM. I think the environmental conditions on the property will be substantially improved from this project. Most importantly, we'll have an AI sanitary system coupled with the removal of a lot of the structures that have been added since 1979. I do have to acknowledge that removal of many of these structures would occur whether or not this application was submitted or whether it's approved, but a clear alternative would be to revert back to the 1979 CO with a legal, its existing legal sanitary system. It's clearly impacting the groundwater based on the elevations that we had done for our profile of the new sanitary system. Even with all the concerns of the prior stewardship of this property identified, I think our application takes a positive step forward, proposing very modest additions to both to the house and the accessory structures that I think make sense, and in return will carefully improve the conditions on the property and create a more consolidated structure. The proposed patio garage and tiny additions make sense and will make this property more usable within the confines of the envelope they sit in. This will encourage future owners, as well as Sylvina, who purchased all of this, to understand and abide by regulations. I think that was part of the issue, is the way that it was configured just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think this will be a more consolidated and straightforward approach to the property that will just be a better alternative going forward that will ultimately protect and improve the environmental conditions on the property. Any questions you have for me or Joel or Sylvina, happy to answer.
Well, I mean, I have a question of if we're to do our job and we're supposed to look at the balancing tests on this project relative to the environment, relative to the additions and what you're asking for, what is the basis of that? I mean, to square off a house or do this or they do that or a septic system, but what's the basis for us saying, because these variances are quite large, what's the basis for us to apply that test?
Well, I do think you have to first analyze the actual variant, the wetlands in question. The one predominantly to the north, that's essentially a buffer. There is an approved residence on the other side, so that's not a substantial wetland area. It's directly adjacent to the driveway. And while we do think that if we revegetate and we will be improving that wetland, and the area that we're proposing to improve with structures is largely encumbered and improved by those pre-existing sheds. The sheds were separated from the house, so we're basically consolidating that area. We'll be installing roof gutters, all that other stuff to prevent the runoff. I do think at the end of the day, the benefit to the applicant from that will outweigh any detriment. As a matter of fact, I'd say there's probably a net environmental improvement from it. The wetland all the way in the southeast of the property is much farther away from our proposed activities, but again, we would propose to improve the wetland conditions there, do some revegetation work, and I think that coupled with the sanitary system, that is going to have a demonstrable impact on that. When you're talking about groundwater that's at a level of about 4, that sanitary system right now, it has to be sitting in groundwater. We didn't explore that, but it just would make perfect sense. We're going to upgrade that so that we're not impacting that wetland and the water flows that are going to ultimately, leach horizontally at some point or vertically and then horizontally in the groundwater flow. So I think all those things come into the analysis in terms of providing a benefit to the applicant that's not offset by an actual detriment. As a matter of fact, I think it'd probably be largely positive at the end of the day. The structures we're asking for are very minimal additions to the property. I think the consolidation of the patio versus what was legally existing on the property makes sense, and it's going to be a more usable patio for the property, and I can't point to any detriment from having that installed in a manner that it's going to be used and more appropriately to house the needs of the property. I mean, this property does predate all of our review from 1979, so it's not like anybody gave a great thought to it at the time, but I think all of these things taken together, you're creating a situation where, yeah, we're asking for a benefit, but we think we can offset our benefit by providing that environmental benefits to this property that it wouldn't be available otherwise.
Any other questions?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, commenting about, obviously, the large revision in the southeast corner, that's an important part. We'll have to, I know that the Grimes plan is going to be presented, and we'll be looking at that carefully, the planning department will look at it carefully. But it is quite a chunk of land, and it has been filled in, so it's going to require quite a bit. And I know we're going to relocate the propane tanks, but that's how far it comes. It comes all the way up to very close to the house, right to the propane. That's a significant area there that we're going to have to look at. And this will all have to be done in a pattern that's going to be acceptable to the planning department. I know you're offering that as some sort of mitigation, but actually what it is somebody has filled in this wetland here, and it just has to be replenished. So to me, this is a big part of the question here, and we'll talk to Brian about it, is but what are we looking at here? As the chair has said, the basis of us looking to approve these various additions you want to go are really based on your IA system and whether or not we feel we're getting an adequate treatment of this wetland system. This is very important to us, right?
Well, and I think part of it, I'm sure Brian will have thoughts on this, is the substantiality of how you can improve that wetland beyond what it would be today, versus the monoculture or whatever vegetation is in there. Jimmy Grimes does a very thoughtful job on these, and I would trust him to be able to not only meet, he'll exceed the expectation in terms of restoring this area. The fill looks like it did have there's a boundary where it stopped at the end of the day, but I think we can restore and do additional work within that wetland that will enhance the area well in advance of what it would be today had none of this occurred in the past.
Okay, I think I saw in Grimes' letter, it was just a paragraph, but I think he said southwest, not southeast.
Yeah, that's
just a
what
typo?
Yeah, that's a typo.
And then there's an issue with the flagging that the planning department had done, and then this current configuration of restoring the southeast wetland. Is this being restored to the levels that the planning department had flagged?
Yes, I think that's the intent here, is that Jimmy Grimes said basically we have to extend, figure out where the hydric soils will be after they remove some of the fill material in
We don't have that
and
plan,
coordinate
right?
that.
I didn't see it. Do we have that plan?
Yes, I actually have a copy of the letter, but it's a one-page letter.
His letter just said southwest.
Exactly. So, what I'd envision is the board would say, okay, you can submit a full plan, Brian and James could go out, Mr. Grimes could go out there, further evaluate the area and come up with what they think an acceptable scope of the initial work and then the planting work afterwards. I think that would be perfectly understandable and agreeable.
Andy, I did read the Grimes letter, which did seem to focus a lot more on the protocol to restore that southeast wetland, but can you remind me where, I'm looking at the northwest corner where you have the arborvitae in the wetland, and then you're moving it looks like the fence is being moved in. So what's the plan now in that northwest corner? Are you going to take out the arborvitae and restore that whole section as well?
That's correct, although I don't believe it has the same impact from fill in the past. There's some arborvitae planted there, which, I would defer to Brian. It's certainly not a native wetland plant, but, a removal of that could be coupled with planting of more typical, hydrophilic vegetation that you'd be more typically found in that area. I think that was installed obviously for screening because there is a house right on the other side, and there might be a native equivalent that will provide that function, but also have the benefit of habitat and other types of foraging type plants in that area as well.
I mean, we'll go through it with Brian, the sort of evolution of the property. I know there have been changes that happened, as you said, over the years, but you look at the property, it's all grass, lawn, ornamentals. It's not as typical as what we often talk about in the neighborhood. We've had some applications and pending before us that are close by, right? And we always talk about the topography and the dune-like character, the wetland. Like the whole property is basically stripped of all of that. So I know it says on the survey that you're going to, I think the total revegetation, the clearing is reducing by about 2,000 some odd square feet. But any other, comments on the sort of naturalizing the
Well, that's a very diverse area of Beach Hampton. I'm not aware of this being a secondary duneland area.
I'm not saying it's a dune, but, we often, you'll hear the chairman say it a lot, like, the sort of undulating topography. Not all properties in Beach Hampton have sand on them. Some, they're more wetland-like, but, it's very, again, some of this happened, before.
Well, I suspect
just wanted to get the comment on it.
When there were the wetland delineation submitted, one of those was submitted by the owner, who then sold it to Sabina. So I do think there were activities undertaken, maybe to create an appearance of something that it's not. Which this is a Beach Hampton property, and it doesn't look like a traditional Beach Hampton property to me. And I would certainly accept Brian's recommendations in terms of if there are plants or a vegetation type that would be more typically found there. Clearly, lawn is not it. I think that's the end result of most of these properties. Lawn is a very limited and scarce commodity, and probably should be, because that wasn't the character. I don't think this was a duneland property. There is a substantial reconstruction across the street, or it might even been a new build with a pool and all that area. It looked like it was planted to resemble a dunescape, at least from the aerials. We don't have a picture of it to show it to you tonight, but I don't think that actually matches the phenotype of this area as well. But if the board were to approve it, I'm sure we could come up with a revegetation plan that would more closely match what the expectation would be.
Any other questions? I'll turn it over to Brian.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions?
No, I'm
Good evening again, board members, Mr. Chairman.
How you doing, Brian?
Brian Frank from the Planning Department.
Brian, you swear
Yeah,
in?
I'm sworn in.
Sworn in.
Sorry. I'm rusty, I guess. It's been a while since I've been here. So this property is not really unique in Beach Hampton. It's a corner lot, so it does have 2 front yards. It's fairly typical for the size, as a lot of the properties are in Beach Hampton. It was initially developed prior to natural resources special permit regulations. The most recent certificate of occupancy is from 1979, and that should be fairly controlling as to what is legal or permitted. Anything built after 79 would at least need a building permit. There was a brick patio shown there. It's noted even on the survey that the time of the CO was a 488 square foot patio, and you do have a copy of that certificate of occupancy in your file. So I don't think there's a real rational basis for speculating that maybe there were more structures on the property in 79, then, or subsequent to that, then, and there's less relief that's required than what was noticed as a result of that. I don't think there's any basis for that at all. I think the 79 survey was probably an accurate representation of what was on the property at the time. The application proposes to remove a number of appurtenances or accessory structures and construct an attached garage with a roof deck on the north side and patio. These setback variances are pretty substantial. We have a 100-foot wetland setback for structures. This application is requiring variances between 80 and 90%. And in almost every regard, in pretty much every regard or most regards, everything is getting closer to the wetlands than exists now. The driveway expansion, and you can see the proposed structures are shown on the survey in green. The driveway enlargement is closer to the wetlands, about 20 feet away. The garage and the roof deck are closer to the wetlands, about 18 or 14 feet away, 18 feet away if you exclude the staircase that's proposed on the north side. The patio that's proposed on the south side is 11 feet, 12 feet away from the wetland. These are numerically substantial variances, and on a lot that's not uncommon in this area. I think the board has to be very measured in how you evaluate these variances against the variance standards of the town code and consider granting them, because zoning boards are expected to treat similar properties similarly. So it is not uncommon for properties to change hands without updated certificate of occupancies. It is not uncommon for new owners to inherit or take ownership of structures that are not necessarily permitted. And I do think that granting these variances, we've seen a lot of applications in Beach Hampton over the years. It's very hard to distinguish this request from anything unique or anything compelling to be granted. The footprint of the residence is not large. It's about 980 square feet. And you can see, in addition to the proposed structures being shown in green, there is a dashed gray line for the structures that are proposed to be removed. And that's why the total coverage is going down in this application, because a lot of the structures are proposed to be removed are not necessarily, are not shown on that 1979 certificate of occupancy. The wetlands on this property were initially flagged in 2020 by my coworkers, Mike Delalio and Eleni Nikolopoulos. A new request had come in 2021, and by that time, that wetland, the wetland in the southeast corner of the property had been filled and leveled, and the wetland along the northern property line had been landscaped, compromising the structure of both, basically eliminating the wetlands in the southeast corner of the property. The application itself doesn't mention the creation of the wetland as part of the natural resources special permit, and I would argue very strenuously against correcting environmental violations subject to a natural resources special permit. That may be one interpretation of the reading of the code, but I was the chief environmental analyst for almost 20 years. I've worked with code enforcement. I've worked on situations like this, and I'm telling you definitively, if you want to make correcting environmental violations as slow and cumbersome and involve as many town personnel as possible, have it require an NRSP as opposed to a much more streamlined process with fewer staff members reviewing it, coordinated amongst the various town entities that need to know about that corrective work. And that is a much, much more efficient way to correct a problem than to use the NRSP process, where it involves the board, an attorney, the public, a notice period, perhaps a hearing to see how we got here. I'm telling you emphatically, you won't hear me say that I'm 100% certain about this, about many things, but I do feel I'm 100% certain that that process for correcting violations would probably be as slow and and cumbersome and consumptive of an excess of resources as you could possibly have a process be. There are many other ways to do it more efficiently. A self-created difficulty is not disqualifying for the variance standards. I think that it says so specifically in your town code, but it is a fact that the knowledge of the wetlands, the fact that the wetlands were present on this property would be available to any prospective owner in 2020 or later than that had an interest in buying the property. The town was open during COVID. We were all working. We all were responding to emails. We were all, to one extent or another, present in the office. If there were any inquiry at the town level as to what were their natural features or was the property potentially in natural resources jurisdiction, that answer was readily obtainable through the planning department. The wetlands, I think Andy was a little too cavalier talking about what the value of these wetlands are. You know, all of these wetlands kind of function with each other throughout the Beach Hampton community. Some of them are pristine and more extensive than others, but they all serve some type of either refugia of habitat, and most importantly, the retention, the holding of floodwaters. Planting a row of arborvitae and the large root balls that are associated with them decreases the capacity of that. There is no created wetland that is as beneficial as a natural one. You don't say, hey, we are going to put this wetland back and make it better than it was before it was filled in. I just think that is a bold statement that really can't be substantiated. This wetland should have been restored. I'd argue it should have been restored before we even got to the hearing here. I don't see any, it is noble that they proposed an upgrade of the sanitary system, but there's no connection between improving the disposal of residential waste and decreasing your setbacks from structures to a wetland, increasing coverage in the direction of the wetlands. It's apples and oranges. We want wetlands to function with some type of natural buffer around them. You can't do that if you're reducing setbacks by 80, 90%. There are grants in place at the county and the municipal level for replacing sanitary systems. Anybody with an outdated system should replace their system if and when they can, as soon as they can. But there is no connection between upgrading this sanitary system and reducing the setbacks by 80 to 90% in two directions on these properties. And it's a noble gesture and an effort to, I believe a sincere effort to make the application more attractive to the town, but one doesn't offset the other. There are different impacts from them, and maybe under other circumstances, if this were a harbor area, a productive shellfish area, a sanitary upgrade might be enticing enough to consider relief that you ordinarily might to reduce the potential of sanitary effluent entering a significant water body or some other protected habitat. That's not really the case here. So it's a noble gesture, but it's hard to connect that as mitigation from the impact of increasing coverage and decreasing setbacks to these wetlands. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I had thought that I had the 79 CO available in the digital resources, that I could bring it up in the screen. I don't. I apologize for that. I know you have it in your file, and I encourage you to take a look at that as a baseline for what is permitted to be on the property right now.
Could you show us the GISs from like 2016 and 2024? I mean, it also shows an incredible difference in coverage, clearing.
The clearing, yes. In the information, the removal, whether it's clearing or not, it's hard to say. It's definitely a removal of the tree canopy. You can see an increase of lawn over that time. We do consider trees within a lawn area already cleared, so I'm not going to go as far as to say the clearing has occurred, but obviously the removal of plants, for lack of a more artful term, has definitely occurred over the last, since 2016.
That 79 CO, I had looked at it, but did it have the clearing, the limits of clearing and the square footage of clearing back then?
Not to my
I didn't see it,
recollection.
right?
I don't believe it did.
Yeah.
There were a lot of properties bought during COVID out here. Do you think it would be an excuse, COVID would be an excuse for owner not doing their diligence on purchasing a property? That would be a slippery slope to say, wouldn't it?
COVID was an impediment to pretty much everything that everybody did in their lives in the year 2020. But I would, I agree with the concern that because of COVID, that, you know, it's understandable that there wasn't greater diligence and to factor that into a lot of decision-making in these circumstances.
I just wanted to go back to I call it the property history card. It's in the, right, so the last note on the card is March 30th, 2021, stop work order by ordinance regarding the grading within the wetland jurisdiction. So that stop work order was, someone must have seen the clearing going on. Is that like, and stopped it?
I don't know the circumstances behind the issue. I mean, that's a fair speculation, but anything that I say is just more speculation.
Okay.
I don't know the circumstances behind the issuance of the stop work order.
Okay. And the reason I ask is because, so I'm just curious, related to some of the comments you just made about correcting these you know, clearing out a wetland or filling it. So I'm curious what's happened since then. Nothing's been improved in that wetland. And I just, from a town perspective, you know, sort of why hasn't this already been addressed? And then secondly, I was trying to tie it to, I did look up the deed transfer date, which appeared to be, I think, December 2020. So I'm just trying to connect in the record, the deed transfer of the property would be prior to this 3/30/2021. So I'm just trying to understand kind of the sequence of events that happened on the property.
I don't have any information I don't have any light I can shed on that.
Any other questions?
We have some of the flaggings that the department had done that are in the.
Yeah, there are a whole series of notes, right?
Around those timeframes.
The chain of delineations, yes, that's been included there, and it is correct that by the time of the last flagging, the staff members that were familiar with the conditions before the wetland were filled were no longer with the town. So I did advise Joel. I said, "But I'm not going to flag this a flat lawn. I feel it would be kind of arbitrary any place that I'm placing the flags or trying to use topography from the town's aerials." And I encouraged Joel to establish the approximate boundaries of the wetland as best he could. It is not inconsistent with Mike Delalio's sketch from 2020, so it's I think a reasonable facsimile.
So it's reasonable what's projected on the survey now, proposed to be restored.
It's reasonable, yes. Our sketches are just that. They're hand-drawn sketches. They're not, they're not CAD drawings. They're not intended to have they're not intended to be measurements, measuring size, or they're general shape and locations. To be used by the surveyor to get an idea of where our flags are and how many there are.
Any other questions?
Just I see one February 2019 and then November.
No, there's a lot of notes. Thank you, Brian.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address this application? Joel.
Joel Halsey on behalf of the Lighthouse Land Planning here for
Joel, do you
Sylvina.
swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So I'd like to address Member Mearing's comments about the note of the stop work order. Prior to any of our knowledge of this property, there was, prior to Sylvina owning the property, the previous owner had done this work. Ordinance or somebody they were caught and this was in 2020. They got caught. Ordinance said, you guys got to do something about this. You filled in a wetland, you've cleaned up, you've put down lawn, do something about it. Nothing was done. The guy basically bamboozled Sylvina and sold her the property with this violation. So when nothing was done in 2021, ordinance came back and said, you guys haven't done anything, here's a notice of violation, fix it.
She sort of inherited the issue.
She inherited, 100% inherited it. And again, she, you know, I'm not going to blame COVID. I'm not going to blame, there wasn't due diligence done. She relied on a professional to buy this property. Unfortunately, that professional didn't know enough about the town of East Hampton. And she relied on somebody who thought she was giving her good information. That information was bad. And she relied on further bad information before I got brought in regarding the arborvitaes. And she was told that she could plant a row of arborvitaes there to help, you know, screen out the properties. Again, bad advice. And we will rectify that. That is part of the revegetation plan that's already been submitted to the file. That revegetation of both those corners of the wetland. And we never said that recreating this wetland was going to be better than the previous wetland. We're just going to recreate a wetland as best we can. And part of that is going to include Jim Grimes digging down to where he believes the hydric soils are, excavating to that topography, and establishing it with a species of wetland vegetation plants in the area. It's not going to be a monoculture. It's a pretty in-depth plan. I haven't really gotten any comments back regarding the plan yet. And from the beginning, this plan, you know, doing this work, although it would be nice if there was a mechanism that says you can do this work without a natural resource special permit. Unfortunately, the town code says you need a natural resource special permit. So that's part of this application. And if we could have done this prior to the natural resource special permit, we would have done it prior to the natural resource special permit. The application was submitted in July of 2023. It's, you know, we're now in May of 2025. We're, you know, just in front of you now with regards to this. You know, if somebody had said, go do it, we probably would have gotten it done. It probably would have made this application look that much better. But unfortunately, we can't really do anything on this property until we get out of here.
Joel, thank you for addressing the stop work order. No, can you just say again, you said that there was a prior engagement between code.
Yes.
And I think you're saying the prior owner, where is that noted? Like,
I don't believe that. I think sometimes ordinance comes by and notices, it says, hey, we're going to come back in 30 days to see if you've rectified the situation. If you haven't rectified the situation, and this is not my expertise, I don't really understand the workings of the ordinance department, but from what I've seen a few times, if you haven't rectified your situation, then you get noticed for a violation. And then you're in Sylvina is in justice court right now to rectify this situation. And once, you know, we're done with here, we can finish there, and hopefully she can live in a nice little property and get rid of all this agita she's been dealing with. Again, we are, and I spelled it out in my memo, we're not proposing much. We're proposing a garage, and the numbers in 1979 were approximately 1,195 square feet of building coverage. We're only going to increase the building coverage by 172 square feet. The numbers for total lot coverage in 1979 was approximately 2,000 square feet. We're only going to increase over that number by 727 square feet. We haven't said that we're making this beneficial by reducing the numbers as they exist now. That's never been anything that we've said. I've said the numbers from 1979. Granted, it will reduce the numbers, you know, from what's there now, but I'm not touting that, hey, in 2025, this is what we're reducing it to. I've said the 1979 numbers. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
Any other questions?
Just one quick question. Did you apply to the DEC to see if this was?
Did apply to the DEC. I do have a DEC permit.
You do have this.
NJ, notice of sorry, it's a
Non-jurisdiction.
non-jurisdiction, yes.
Good evening. My name is Silvina de la Mota. Thank you for allowing me, and nice meeting you.
Raise your right. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I swear. So I just want to tell you a little bit about how I bought this house, and because, yes, it was not an excuse that it's COVID times, but I was recently separated in the city with 3 kids, and during COVID, my ex-husband was it was really difficult at that time. So I wanted a house to be with my children, and I found Gardiner randomly, and I gave an offer without even seeing it from outside. 5 days later, I met the owner, and he accepted my offer, and it was really fast. I just wanted to be making sure that if it was another quarantine, I had a house with my kids, that would be very nice, away from the turmoil from the city. So my attorney at that time did say there are a few things. There is no CO or from 1975 or 9, and there is like a barbecue in the grass and maybe some fence. He never mentioned anything about wetlands whatsoever. So I said, okay, I'm sure I can fix all that. Best of the intentions. And then it was amazing. I love the house. I found Amagansett incredible, the neighborhood and the people, really, really amazing. This is my home. It's not an investment. I love it there. And my kids have grown since 2021, and they've been, they become camp counselors at East Hampton and sports time. So we're really, this is our community. I've been trying to fix whatever was wrong because, yes, after I find out, wow, there were so many things with, over clearing and all the grass. I like nature. I don't like to have a manicure grass. I would have loved to have all the wetlands. This was what I bought, and I've been trying since 2021 to fix it and hire every single person that gets recommended. I've been spending a lot of money just I'm so sorry, but to rectify and to make it right. Anyway, so I'm sorry I'm emotional. It's just been frustrating. But I am here and I'm going to be at my house until I'm there, until I'm old. And I want to make it perfect and not have anyone come and say you have this wrong, or you have bad intentions, because that is not the case. So anyway, I ask you to please look at my file, and I'm thankful that today we're meeting because it's been so many years, and I had, new attorneys, new people, consultants, engineers, survey, Brian Grimes making a whole look, choose every plant for the restoration of the wetlands, every single thing. I've been working hard, so. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application? Matt, anybody on the phone?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Andy, you good? Or we got a closing statement?
Yeah, I thought Silvina did a great job. This is not easy and not what she does, but realistically, she has been doing everything since she figured out the problem to try to make this right. She has, she's gone through several different people. There's an incredible report in there from David Rhodes about how they're going to actually install the sanitary system, the protocol. how they were going to propose to do that. The revegetation plan that was submitted by Jim Grimes is very detailed, and certainly I think Joel and I were just looking at it and saying, yes, we could certainly increase the buffer on both of those wetland areas, consistent with the, and consistent with the improvements we're proposing. I do think that the one thing that Brian said that's absolutely true is, yes, you generally don't try to decrease the buffer adjacent to the wetland. We're kind of stuck with the house that we have right now and its location. So the wetland locations are the most difficult one to work with because all of the sheds and the accessory uses of this property are already in the area that we're proposing to put them. Silvina is a motorcyclist. That's the purpose of the garage. She wants to have a place that she can keep her motorcycles and be able to do that where they're going to be covered from the weather. The existing sheds are, they are painted and shingled, but they're not really in great condition. So I do think that we're asking for very modest and reasonable appurtenances to this house that do make a lot of sense with the mitigation we're providing. However, it's hard to walk in and, drag the mud in on the carpet. The first I heard about, well, we could revert, change, I haven't been involved in this application from the inception anyway. However, it's good news to me that if there are these types of violations, we can work with the planning department to remedy them. I didn't know of the extent of the violation here, but I'm certainly happy to do that in the future. And maybe this is even a good candidate because I think that would have come in with a different set of eyes on this thing saying, oh, look, we've been taking steps. That was always the intent to Silvina. She, had the right consultants to do it. Jimmy Grimes knows that, works a lot in the town. He didn't propose to do that either. I think people were just that, we were in this process where there was a stop work order. Everybody just said, hey, okay, well, let's get in front of the board and get everybody looking at this at the same time.
Sorry, again. I was just discussing with Sylvia if she would be, if she would be amenable to possibly increasing the buffer. Obviously we're going to redo the tan areas. Possibly increasing the buffer maybe to the fence line here, and then increasing the buffer, across the back. We don't have much room to work with, but we would definitely be amenable to increasing the buffer. A sanitary upgrade in this situation, although it's not a shellfish habitat or anything like that, a sanitary upgrade is a great benefit to anywhere in the town of East Hampton, especially when you look at the existing system now. There's no way it's not sitting in groundwater.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, can we have a motion?
Yes, we can. In the matter of Savina de la Mota, 41 Gardeners Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County, tax map 300-174-4-7, I make a motion to close the public hearing and the hearing record.
Second.
Thank you. Concur.
Thank you.
Concur.
Concur. Okay, we have our draft minutes of Tuesday, May 6th.
Can we table that?
Yes, we can table that. We move on to our resolutions. We have Hine at 2 Cedar Point Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-55-1-27.2. This is a modification, board members, that we approved. It was a modification of pool sizing. So I'll make a motion. In the case of Hine at 2 Cedar Point Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-55-1-27.2, to allow to adopt the modification as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Next, we have 3 Georgia Association Road, LLC, at 3 Association Road, Wainscott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-9.1. We have, this is an approval. This was an application to expand the house in the landward part of the house. The board unanimously approved this. So therefore, I make a motion in the application of 3 Georgica Association Road, LLC at 3 Association Road, Wayne Scott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-9.1, to adopt the resolution as written.
Second.
Concur.
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 Thank you. Next, we have Sean Meehan at 69 Benson Drive in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-30-1-22. Whose was this?
That was mine. If you recall, this is one that the applicant had requested and submitted a new submittal, which we did accept, and it changed the ultimate decision on this. It was a split decision still in favor of approving the application. It's 3-2. So I make a motion for Sean Meehan at 69 Benson Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Act 300-30-1-22, to make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Thank you.
Second it.
Concur.
We're going to adjourn the meeting now and then go into executive session. So, so Vice Chair, give me.
So I make a motion to adjourn the zoning board of appeals on May 13th, 2025 at 8:24. And I make a motion to go into executive session regarding a legal matter at 8:24 PM.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.